Thank you very much. There's a quotation I heard recently which I really like, which is, what are the two most important days of your life? The day that you're born and the day you find out why. And I suspect that most of us in the room are at the stage where we've actually found out why. I mean, I think we're hugely privileged at the moment to be living in this ridiculous sort of interactive theatre. It's like a thriller film. And, you know, the script is brilliant. I mean, it really is. Who would have seen that coming? So what I thought I might do, part of the theme is meant to be sort of purification and all that. And I thought I might start from the top of your head downwards and sort of run through it that way. I interviewed a doctor some time ago who said that hair dye was one of the big problems that she saw, that people were rubbing some quite toxic stuff into their scalp. And of course the same is true for shampoo or conditioner or whatever. You know, your pores of your body, you know, expand because of the heat of a bath or a shower. And what you're rubbing in is just going straight into your bloodstream, into your brain maybe. And we need to examine everything we touch, because everything we rub into ourselves is just going right in. And you may know, for instance, that cheap soap is made through a process called soapification, which is where the privatized sewage systems, when your waste goes into the sewage plant, they separate it out like the fat, and it's the fat from the human waste that goes into making soap. So choose your soap wisely. Yeah. So, you know, and the same is true with toothpaste. You know, I'm sure all of you are not using fluoride toothpaste, but if you still are, you want to wake up that it's not at all healthy. It's all a big fat lie. Some people, you see them, they've got like what's called fluorosis, where their teeth go translucent. Maybe you've seen that. That's from using too much fluoride. So what can you do? Somebody earlier was mentioning to me ears. There is a hormone, like testosterone, it's called aldosterone. And aldosterone can come in drops. And people who are losing their hearing find that sometimes the aldosterone drops work so well that for a day or so things are a bit too loud. So it's important to realize that when the doctors say something like, oh, well, it's incurable, it's hopeless, there's nothing that can be done, there's a huge chance they might just be plain wrong. And you know, my story, for those of you who don't know, 35 years ago, I was fit and healthy, and I took an antibiotic, and within a few months, I'd become type 1 diabetic. I'd become so arthritic that I could no longer walk. And then one morning, I couldn't get out of bed. I was stranded in bed. I tried to get dressed, couldn't. I had no more strength and so much pain. That was it. That was me done. Luckily, there was somebody in the house, so I was rescued. They put me in hospital, and I was in there for weeks and weeks and weeks. And I was pretty sure that it was antibiotic poisoning, but of course, they're not going to admit to anything like that. And they offered me drugs, and I explained that I wasn't low on drugs. You know, drug deficiency is not my problem. Anyway, I figured it out myself. I realized I was just low on minerals and vitamins. The antibiotics had hammered the good bacteria in the gut, and now, despite eating really good food, it just wasn't going in. I was getting weaker rather than stronger. So I was lucky enough to get some good advice, and I read some good books, and I started taking some probiotics. I started taking loads of magnesium and vitamin C, one or two other things, and after a while, the arthritis disappeared. And that was 35 years ago. And you know, so I was so bad I couldn't even get dressed. 35 years, never had a twinge since. So do doctors know that rheumatoid arthritis or osteoarthritis is, well, with rheumatoid, really pretty much completely reversible. Osteo, not quite so easy to reverse, but it can be stopped in its tracks. So anything that's got osteo at the beginning, you can be pretty sure that there's going to be a deficiency maybe of magnesium and a deficiency of vitamin K2. So where do you get vitamin K2? You get it from pasture-raised animal products. Could be cheese like Gouda or Edam, they're rich in K2. Any animal produce that's been grown at the beginning of the year when there's all the fresh grass and everything's going wild in the fields, that is the answer to making sure you don't lose any teeth and you don't have bone problems later on in life. Vitamin K2, massively important, as important perhaps as magnesium. But the problem comes for vegans, because if you're a vegan, it's very hard to get vitamin K2, and one of the few sources is something called natto, which is a sort of fermented soybean paste. And I recommend all vegans, or anybody who's eating very little animal produce, want to consider vitamin K2 as a very important supplement. You know, we all know that vitamin D is important from sunshine. You know, and in winter people get colds and flus and stuff because there isn't enough sunshine, they've got enough vitamin D. Vitamin D and vitamin K2 go together, they're a pair, and very, very important. I'd like to just say, for the benefit of the cameras, that anything I say is not medical advice, because I'm not a doctor, and if I do use the very, very naughty words like cure and cancer, I'm spelling them both with a K. That's all you need to do, you know. The law is a wonderful thing, as we learned this morning. So, what else can you do from the top of the head downwards? Well, I'm not a good example of this because I can't be bothered to do it, but people who want to get the colour of their hair back before it was grey, people who want to regrow their hair, what were they doing 2,000 years ago? Well, the herbalists will tell you that in China they were using herbs like Ho Shu Wu, which is translated, it means Mr. Black Hair, and supposedly Mr. Ho Shu Wu lived to 250 and died with black hair. But, so that's obviously true. And so what can you do? Well, what were they doing 100 years ago? Well, probably about 110 years ago, maybe a little bit before that, they started using this device, which is a Tesla device. You know, this sort of technology used to be everywhere, right? And you can probably see there's a comb here. And it was common, really common, for hairdressers to offer a service to both men and women to use electrotherapy to regrow and recolor their hair. So this sort of technology, well, I'll go into this a little bit later. I'll just carry on going down the face at the moment. You can use this on the eyes, by the way. You can. That's the eye electrode. So if anybody has eye problems here, what could I suggest? Well, probably one of the cheapest things to do is to spend a £5 or 10 quid on eBay or somewhere and buy pinhole glasses. About 15 years ago or so, I started giving my clients pinhole glasses to wear, and I was expecting them to come back a year later and say, well, I've had a bit of an improvement. 2 weeks. 2 weeks, people were ringing me up and saying my vision's improved. And all you do with pinhole glasses, just wear them 15 minutes a day, so it's not difficult. 15 minutes a day in good light, you can read. A good eye exercise, by the way, pinhole glasses or not, is to focus close up and as fast as you can, look way into the distance, put your focus there and try and go backwards and forwards as fast as possible. So the Russians are the most ahead with eyes. The Russians are really, really ahead. So how are they doing it? Well, they're using the Soviet military technology that they developed many years back. The Russian spies back in I think the 80s had discovered that the Americans had got a blinding laser. One flash and the whole battlefield, everybody's got their eyes open, is blind. So they put masses of research into repairing retinas. You know, the Soviet military, no shortage of money to do the research. And they found that peptides, this isn't vegan friendly, peptides extracted from animals were reversing retinal damage. Now, we're unlikely to be hit by blinding lasers, but what's causing retinal damage now Probably one of the big ones is aspartame, the artificial sweetener causing deafness and blindness, among a whole host of other things. So if you have the choice of a diet drink, do not take it. Just don't go for it. Sugar isn't a good thing, but it's safer than saccharin or all the alternatives. So what else can you do with eyes? Well, vitamin C. Vitamin C is fantastic for eyes, and vitamin C is the most important vitamin ever. It's absolutely crucial, and it's been known for 60 plus years that everything from polio to smallpox to the flu to the colds to everything you can imagine, scarlet fever, everything they needle you for, vitamin C, maybe you need some zinc and maybe you need some vitamin D as well. Vitamin C overcomes pretty much everything. The first time I saw terminal cancer spelt with a K reversed was 35 grams of vitamin C in divided doses every day. This guy had been given weeks to live. It was the second cancer he had, come back for the second time, as they often do if the cause isn't discovered. And he took 35 grams of vitamin C every day, lived another 20 years, and when he did die, it wasn't from cancer. So some people need a lot more than that. How much vitamin C do we all need? Well, if we were eating fresh food like our ancestors did a couple of hundred years ago, we obviously wouldn't need to supplement with anything. We would have been just fine. But now food is no longer fresh, and while minerals last forever, vitamins deteriorate with heat and time. So by the time we've got those fresh vegetables or the fresh fruit at home in our kitchen, most of the vitamins are gone. So all of us, unless we're supplementing these days, are malnourished. It really is all of us, including myself. It's very, very hard to get good food. If we're buying food in supermarkets, well, we're stuffed. It's really difficult. So what can you do if you have very little money, going to Deathco, whichever supermarket you choose? Sorry, excuse my lisp. I'll say it more clearly. Deathco. One way to get around it is to buy dried seeds or pulses, right? Let's say you like hummus. Now, hummus is pretty cheap food. Make it with olive oil. Don't use any oil, by the way, like sunflower or any oil that's not cold pressed is going to be unnatural and rancid. So even though it says organic sunflower oil on the shelf of your supermarket, if it's not cold pressed, it's not going to be good for you. Just being organic is not enough with oils. Our ancestors viewed oils and fats as the best thing out. The fat of the land, the cream of the crop. Meat was considered really at its best if it had lots of fat running through it. Then they demonized it. All those people with dementia out there, all the people with Alzheimer's, they were the ones who believed the low-fat lie. Your brain's made of cholesterol. So, I've seen dementia reversed by like 4-6 tablespoonfuls of coconut oil, or lots of butter, lots of fat, lots of cheese, lots of real food. But even butter and cheese isn't real anymore, is it? It's pasteurized. And then they've bred the cows to an inch of their lives. You see those black and white Holsteins where their udders are so big they're actually dragging on the ground, and it looks wrong because it is wrong. And the milk from that's white, where milk should be creamy coloured with a big layer of cream on the top. So, what else can we talk about in the head? Let's talk about teeth. Now, when I was young, I started off life with my uncle, who was a dentist, and I never had a problem. He told me every time I had the best teeth in the world. It was fabulous. Then he had a hemorrhage in his eye, and he had to give up because he didn't have stereo vision anymore. And I went to see another dentist who told me I had the worst teeth he's ever seen and drilled loads of them. And I would have dealt with him, but I was too young. So I think all of us have probably had our teeth butchered for money. And the reality is that, let's say the dentist, the first time you ever had a cavity. You wake up one morning and it hurts. You realise, haven't been looking after my teeth, got a cavity. What could you do? Well, stop eating for a day or two. Don't pour in Coca-Cola or tea or coffee, or just, give your mouth a break as if it were your finger. If you cut your finger, you know what to do. You don't rub food or Coca-Cola in it. You leave it alone. It repairs, right? Break your fingernail. You don't run to the nail bar and say, I need a filling. You just let it regrow, and your teeth are regrowing all the time. If only they'd just said, give your teeth a break for a day or two, it'll regrow, it would. You're grinding your teeth down all the time. Your teeth are regrowing at an incredibly rapid rate. So we've been conned by dentists, absolutely conned. And there are certain professions that psychopaths like prison guards and so on, and dentists, surgeons are one of the favourites for psychopaths because they can inflict pain and get paid for it. It's a bit sad, but that's the way it is. So, let's go. I'm going to keep coming back to these Tesla devices because I had a lady last year who had a tumour in the back of her throat. She opened her mouth, and you could just see this hole. You could put your little finger in the hole. It's horrible. And the doctor said, we've got to operate and so on. So we used a little tiny glass electrode like this, and within about a minute of her just holding it right on the little ulcerous wound, it was already looking better. And 2 or 3 months after using it several days a week, gone, no surgery necessary. So maybe you can see, but there's a glass tube inside a glass tube. So it's double insulated, which means that they could be used internally. So it wasn't that long ago that every hospital in the world had versions of this technology. It was everywhere, and it fell out of favor in the 20s, early 30s, when radio became really popular because this broadcast on long wave, and it interfered with radios. And they changed the machines, the ones they used in hospital were called diathermy, and they changed the diathermy from long wave to short wave, and it was some time before they realized it wasn't working the same, and some people started dying. And then the Second World War happened, and that was it. Everything changed. Things weren't made to last anymore, and the old teachings that they used to teach doctors were gone. And the famous old teachings that doctors used to know about, herbalists used to know about, were things like apple cider vinegar. If anybody gets acid reflux, they need to be aware that if they drank some apple cider vinegar with a little bit of water before a meal, that would give them enough acidity so that the valve at the top of the throat would close properly and they wouldn't get acid reflux. Everybody who has stomach problems goes to the doctor. The doctors usually say, oh, you're making too much stomach acid. But this is never true. As we get old, we don't make too much of anything. We make too little of anything. And so all the people who think they've got too much stomach acid have actually got too little stomach acid. And it's fairly easy to correct this. Now, I'd like to point out that what we need at this time is information. We're in an information war. Most of the world has been given information that's clearly wrong. And so we need to know how to get the information. I'd like to mention a couple of websites out there that are worth knowing about. If I don't know the answer to a health question, I'm likely to look at a website called earthclinic.com. earthclinic.com. Some people call it applecidervinegar.com because they keep recommending apple cider vinegar for everything. And it really is a magical cure. Unpasteurized apple cider vinegar, it's worth researching. Then there's another one called greenmedinfo.com. greenmedinfo.com, which is sort of more serious, if you like, but very, very interesting research, fantastic research. And both these organizations are not in it for the money. Some 8, 9 years ago, I was working with an outfit called UK Column, which you might have come across. And I was their sort of health correspondent for about 30 odd episodes. And then one day, the government threatened all of us, and we had to take everything down off the website. And it took a long time to put the information back up again. Anyway, I realized at that time that the videos that I was making were unsafe. You know, I've been incredibly lucky. I woke up like 10 plus years ago. I suddenly discovered there was this incredible free resource. I realized that I could email the greatest health experts in the world, ask if I could interview them, and they'd do it for free. So I've been incredibly lucky. You know, I know a few bits about health, because I've done 500 videos where I've asked the best people in the world questions I don't know the answer to. It's been fabulous. So I realized that YouTube, you know, were taking me down. So I started a club, which is called Secret Health Club. It's called secrethealthclub.com. And over the last few years, whenever I've come across some bit of information, I thought, well, that's good, whether it's a video or an article, I put it in the Secret Health Club, because it used to be, I used to be able to say to people, well, look, just go on to Google, you'll find all the information you need, but clearly that's not the case anymore. So, and there's so much information, how do you know what's what's right? So I started the Secret Health Club so that you can go on to the autism page or the arthritis page or whatever it is and get a sort of fairly concentrated bunch of information. Because, you know, I used to do consultations, but I've stopped doing that now because so talking to one person at a time is great, but I like to do consultations for a couple of hours, and I just didn't have enough time. So now I'm just concentrating on making videos and trying to give talks and putting out the information that way, because we're self-repairable. The first thing we've got to stop doing is damaging ourselves, you know, from the shampoo to whatever it is. We've got to take a decision to stop poisoning ourselves, because the government is doing that for us. We don't need to do it anymore. So really, if you're not already eating the purest food you can possibly afford, filtering all the water, whether it's your bath water, your shower water, cutting out the poisons from your life, it's really worth looking at everything. And because we're incredibly strong as human beings, but if we poison ourselves over and over and over with the same thing, you know, we can fall over. And a lot of people have got into some bad habits, myself included. I believe there are certain things we need to do right now. It's clear that hyperinflation is well on its way. If you have any spare money that's not doing anything, I would suggest you start investing in everything from dried foods to vitamins and minerals, everything that you think or know that you're going to need that's not perishable, go for it. I wanted to mention the seeds and beans and so on. With the exception of kidney beans, which you can't eat raw, you can eat raw virtually all the beans, all the chickpeas, lentils, and you can sprout them, seeds. You can bring home 100 grams of chickpeas, soak them for a day in water. Now you've got 200, 300 grams. A couple of days later, you just rinse them, leave them slightly damp in a kiln jar or something. You can turn 100 grams of almost anything, lentils, whatever you like, into 300 or 400 grams by sprouting it. You don't have to sprout them a lot. And we're used to sprouts, and you know, everybody's used to bean sprouts, which are just mung bean sprouts. You know, you can go to the shop and buy some bean sprouts for £1, or you could buy 5 peas worth of mung beans, and they become a quid's worth in about 3 days. So you can have fresh food at home, because seeds and lentils and so on don't need sunlight to germinate. You know, they do their stuff underground in the dark. So you take a seed which is, let's say, really healthy. It's a sunflower seed. You know, it's full of health, but it's dormant. Soak it in water, bring it alive for a couple of days. What now? Is it 25 times more nutritious than it was 3 days ago? More than that? So it's cheap and inexpensive to have fresh organic food. And there are companies, there's one called Aconbury. There are various companies that sell organic seeds for sprouting. So, you know, you go to the garden centre, you get 25 seeds for £2, But you buy them for sprouting and you get this much for 10 quid or something. So you can have fresh food no matter what. And I think that everybody needs to have stocks of things like vitamin C, just basic things. You know, septicemia was mentioned early on. Now, people die from septicemia. On average in hospital, something like 40% of everybody with sepsis dies. But if they're given vitamin C, it's less than 1%. Less than 1%. Do the doctors know this? Well, maybe 1 in 1,000 knows it. So, but you now know it. Vitamin C is an absolute lifesaver. You need to know how much to take. You know, a normal person might need, let's say, 5 grams a day. They would have got that from food, but 5 grams should keep you really, really healthy. But if somebody's got cancer, they may need 200 grams, depending on how ill you are, the more you need. And if you put my name, Clive de Carle, and vitamin C, even still onto YouTube, there are a lot of videos about vitamin C and how to take it. I had to, it's massively important, incredibly cheap substance. And there are people saying, oh, well, real vitamin C is like you get in fruits, and ascorbic acid isn't vitamin C. That's what people are saying online. And the fact is that it's ascorbic acid vitamin C, or the alkaline version sodium ascorbate, which are the ones that have saved lives big time. You know, there are some people say, well, I'm taking my vitamin C as camu camu, or some plant-based material, but it may not be strong enough. I'm normally in favor of everything natural, nothing synthetic. Ascorbic acid is synthetic, but there are 2 ways that you can extract it. You can extract it from genetically modified God knows what, or non-genetically modified corn, or the tapioca, all sorts of things you can extract it from. So the important thing with vitamin C, you're looking for non-GMO, and if your tummy is very delicate, you want sodium ascorbate, which is like the tummy-friendly one. If you just like the sharp taste of ascorbic acid, which I like and can handle well, then you can probably never be, if you wanted never to be ill again, really, what do you need? Vitamin C, vitamin D in winter, zinc if you're not eating enough things with zinc in. Lots of foods have lots of zinc in. If you've got copper pipes in your house feeding the plumbing, you might be low on zinc because of the copper coming off the pipes. So vitamin D in winter, how much do most people need? I would recommend that most people probably do best on about 10,000 IUs once every day or 2 maybe, but just in winter, just when you're not getting sunshine. What else do you need? Iodine. Iodine is massive. I'd be willing to bet money that 95% of you are low on iodine because of if you're eating bread in packets which says flour improver on it, that'll have bromine in the flour improver is code often for a bromine salt which they put in bread. Fluoride was mentioned. Fluoride, of course, is in lots of products like Guinness and Corona beer. Oh, I don't think you're allowed to use that word, are you, anymore? The unnamed beer brand. So it is everywhere. Then magnesium. Magnesium is huge. Everybody's low on magnesium. Magnesium is the answer to depression, anxiety, panic attacks, constipation. It's the answer to happiness. It's the answer, generally speaking, it is the answer to heart problems. It ends heart arrhythmia. Magnesium is the most important mineral, the most important. Then there is fulvic minerals, fulvic and humic minerals. Fulvic and humic minerals are from the soil. They're everywhere, they're right outside, they're underneath this house, but there are very rich deposits of fulvic minerals around the world. And I actually started a supplement company years ago because of the effect that fulvic and humic minerals had on my body. Why I'm mentioning it right now is one of the big dangers, well, 2 big dangers in the world, you might say. One of them is glyphosate, Roundup, the herbicide. The other is graphene oxide. So graphene oxide, they're injecting into everybody, dropping it from the sky. Graphene oxide is everywhere. How do you neutralize graphene oxide? How do you neutralize glyphosate? Fulvic and humic substances do it. How much does a bottle cost? Well, on my website, you get 4 months worth for 40 quid. So it's not like break the bank expensive. How much should you take? 7 drops in water is considered a normal sort of daily dose. If somebody's ill, they might want to take 3 times, 4 times that much. It's sort of harmless. And you've all seen fulvic and humic minerals in action. Maybe some of you have seen that film where the goats climb a dam to lick the water that's coming out from rocks. Animals across deserts to lick rocks for the minerals. And so there are some of these essentials I think everybody's going to need, and I think your neighbours might need them as well. I mean, what do we do with the people who've been jabbed up with stuff? Well, nobody really knows because we don't know what's in there. But there's certain things we do know what's in there. There are antibiotics in there. There's DNA from aborted fetuses and various animals and stuff like that. So how are you going to get over that? How are you going to defeat that? Well, let's be really pessimistic and look at the patents for the self-replicating nanobots. Now, I'm sure none of you want self-replicating nanobots, but what if that's true? What if there really are these self-replicating things? What would I do to try and wipe them out? Well, I'll tell you what I'd do. I'd use a frequency device, particularly on my wrists where the blood's flowing all the time, and I would try and zap everything I possibly could. They're these Hydra things, supposedly. This type of technology is anti-parasitic. You know, they've been using it for 130 years now, this technology, to wipe out parasites in the blood. The biggest thing that these devices do is for pain. On the Secret Health Club, I've got one video where I got 34 people out of pain in a row with technology invented in 1891. Most people just assume that new technology is better than old technology. Well, my experience, having used technology for years and years to try and help people get better, that actually Tesla had it. Tesla invented 3 devices which really haven't been improved upon. Diathermy, he invented the current ozone generator that everybody uses, and these high frequency devices. When the seminar's over, or if somebody's in desperate pain, assuming we don't get chucked out of the building, I'll treat anybody with the device. Generally, 5 minutes is all you need to get out of pain. I'm not saying it works 100% of the time, but it works a lot of the time.
What is this?
Well, Tesla called them high-frequency devices, and they, if I can plug it in, I will show you. You can buy these devices. They're making them new in China for like 30 or 40 quid, but they work. The Chinese ones are great for wrinkles, for cosmetic stuff, but they're not like the old ones which go deep into the body. So it doesn't seem to, the speaker doesn't seem to like it. So it works like that. Can you see that? Basically, you're putting hundreds of thousands of volts into the body at very, very low ampage. And, you know what happens if you have a very low voltage? You could die. 240 volts, it's going to give you a nasty shock. But once you get up to the hundreds of thousands of volts, you can hold positive and negative. It's lovely. It's really nice. It's like a nice sunny day. Feels fantastic. And because the low voltages, your muscles contract. But once you get above a certain voltage, it's just pleasant. And Tesla in the 1880s was realizing that people working in his lab seemed to be getting cured of everything that was going wrong with them. And he realized that these incredibly high frequencies that he was working with were having an effect on people's metabolisms. And at the end of his life, Tesla said one of his biggest regrets was he got so carried away with the wireless transmission of energy that he regretted at the end of his life he didn't spend more time making healing devices. But as I say, he made 3 devices. Tesla patented everything but not the healing devices. He didn't patent them. So about 20 years ago, I was working with a medical doctor, and he introduced me to this technology, and I bought an old machine, and right away, the first time I used it, got a result. Second time I used it, got a result. I used it, well, the second time I used it was this man who'd had his spine crushed. He was a DJ, and he'd seen these speakers going to collapse on him. And before he got rescued, he'd crushed his vertebrae. So I treated him for 45 minutes with Tesla's other machine, not this one, a bigger one, and got him completely out of pain. First time he's been out of pain for 20 years, right? So this technology has been lost. So basically, over the last few years, I have teamed up with pretty much all the restorers who still understand the technology, and I now restore them and provide them to people who really, really, really want them, preferably practitioners, because I think that all of us may need to reinvent ourselves, just possibly. And I was stuck in Mexico, well, not stuck, I chose to be in Mexico last year, and I was thinking, well, what happens if I can't get any money? What happens if I can't get access to, my card won't work in the machine, what am I going to do? I had one of these machines with me, so I knew it was fine, because there are always people in pain. And so I'm encouraging people to, if they're reconsidering their lives, what do they want to do, then I would suggest that getting people out of pain is one of the most rewarding things you can possibly conceive of. And it's a very, very interesting technology, this. It's sort of being rediscovered at this time. One of the things that I find when I'm using it is that people are quite scared of it, right? And they don't know if it's going to hurt or what. And I was trained in hypnosis many moons ago, and when you're about to treat somebody, if you say something like, truthfully, that people like you obviously quite often find in 2 or 3 minutes that their issue is completely fixed. The power of hypnosis is so great that if people believe you, it's almost certainly going to happen. And one of my favorite stories is some years ago, I had 4 frequency devices that I just bought brand new, and I was very, very pleased with them. And I rigged them up to this one person, all 4 machines at once, right? And anyway, it wasn't this sort of, it was a different machine to this. Anyway, they're wired up. And after the end of about an hour or so, all their problems are gone. Their eyesight's working properly, they had all their pain's gone, they're thinking clearly. And I looked over and I realized I'd forgotten to switch all 4 machines on, right? Total result, no pain, better vision, clear thinking, and it was all them. So the power of suggestion is fantastic. And you probably know about hypnosis that the first thing you do is you never use a negative. Because to the universe, there is nothing wrong. It may seem there's something wrong, but apparently to the universe, there isn't. So if you want to influence somebody, you always say what you want, not what you don't want. And I had an example of this years ago. About 25 years ago, my kids were growing up, and I saw one of them running across the room with a glass of water, and I could see they were going to spill it. And I said, "Don't spill that." They immediately spilt it, burst into tears. I'd given them a command, "Don't spill that." Next day, one of my other daughters was coming doing exactly the same, but I'd learnt this time, and I said, "Hold it tightly, slow down." And immediately she held it tightly, slowed down, smiled, and it was all right. So if you want anybody to do anything, just say what you want, not what you don't want. And self-hypnosis to ourselves. Somebody mentioned earlier, we've all got this self-thought thing going on, and we're beating ourselves up. If you catch yourself beating yourself up about something in the past, it's time to recognize what you're doing and get over it. At this point, we can reset ourselves. We are these amazingly powerful individuals. We are creators. Our thoughts are making things happen, and many people are making themselves ill by their thoughts, and we can make ourselves well. You can turn pain off yourself if you want to and if you believe you can. First time it happened to me, I was in hypnosis driving my car through a busy street in Brixton. I was in hypnosis in as much as I was completely distracted by the driving, and I'd got a terrible toothache. And the person sitting next to me said, just imagine a golden light coming down from the heavens and focusing on your tooth and the pain will go away. Because I was hypnotized by that difficult driving, I was able to make that thought without question. The pain turned off just like that. I thought, bloody hell, that was good. Now, I'm not saying that you can all do that all the time. I've had a couple of experiences in my life where I've self-hypnotized myself and turned really bad pain off. Then other times it hasn't worked. So I went to the first time I turned pain off big time, I went to my hypnosis teacher. I turned the pain off. What had happened was I got hideously drunk. I had a migraine so painful I just wanted to die. And I did this 20-second hypnosis thing, and it turned off just like that, like a light switch. Then I got drunk again. This is when I was working with this medical doctor who was a bad influence, being a medical doctor. He prescribed himself his own drugs. This is one of the problems, which a lot of them do. Anyway, we got drunk again, and this time I was so cocky, I thought, oh, I can turn pain off me, no problem. Did exactly the same thing, and it wouldn't turn off. And I went back to my hypnosis teacher, said, why couldn't I do it the second time? He said, well, look, the first time, your subconscious didn't know you could do that, and pain is to stop you bleeding to death or something like that. It was a good reason for the pain. And he said, well, you tried it a second time. Next time you're going to have to be cleverer to overcome your own bodily defenses, because it's not in your body's interest to turn off pain forever. So I advise everybody to study a bit of hypnosis. There's a great book called Get the Life You Want, which is by Richard Bandler, who's the NLP guy. And it's actually very good. Some little 2-3 minute instructions, like little sort of like a meditation that you can do just before bed. Because when you're going to sleep, your subconscious is really wide open to suggestions as you're dropping off. And I've used some of the exercises in that book. There's one woman who she didn't want to talk about it, it was obvious she'd been raped as a child. 3-4 minute exercise from that book, Get the Life You Want, and she used to cry every day about this terrible event as a child, totally switched it off. She never cried again. She just ended a lifetime of habitual cycle. So yeah, get the life you want. It's good advice, I think, generally. So, I've got a few minutes left. Would anybody like to ask a health question? I'd be happy.
Yeah, where do you get big amounts of vitamin C that are not hideously expensive?
The UK government have banned me from giving you this information. They've also banned me from using the words Corona-19 virus and, COVID-19 and coronavirus. I literally have it in writing from the government. I'm not allowed to use these words. So there we go. I've got a website, which I'm not allowed to tell you, which is called clivedecarl.com. And clivedecarl.com, me.com. And it's DECARLE. Clive de Carl. And I started a supplement company years ago because it was so hard to figure out what you could buy. Holland and Barrett used to be owned by the Carlyle Group, who are arms dealers. So, going to arms dealers for your health, I've never found a good idea. Solgar, England's biggest make, they were owned by the Carlyle Group as well. So I started a company because I realized that there was lots of chicanery and trickery going on in the supplement world. So many supplements look great, and maybe they used to be great, but 95% of the supplement companies have been bought out by the pharmaceutical industry or that type of world. So they want you to say, oh, well, I tried magnesium, it did nothing for me. So let me try and pin that one down. You go to one of the big stores, you look for magnesium, what they'll probably sell you is the stuff that doesn't work. You know, most people buy the cheap one, which is called magnesium oxide. That's the one that's, you don't want it, you do not want that one, because it basically is not it'll cure your constipation, but that's about it. Do you think we could open a window a bit? It's getting very stuffy in here, if that's possible, or a door or anything, if you don't freeze to death. And most people, when they try magnesium, even if they tried a good type, the chances are that they haven't tried enough. Now, if I meet somebody who's really low on magnesium, maybe they're suicidal, maybe they're having sleeping problems, maybe they've got heart arrhythmia, maybe they're getting muscle cramps, maybe they're getting twitches around the eyes, maybe they've got arthritis, maybe they've got back pain, I'll suggest they take 12 magnesium capsules a day. Not 2, not 3, not 4, 12. And I've had people who have gone from suicidal to all right, from not being able to sleep to sleeping in 24, 48 hours. Now, you don't need to take 12 forever, but 95% of it in this room will be so low on magnesium, we've got probably one of the symptoms to some degree. It might just be we're feeling a bit depressed and worried, but almost everybody gets a benefit from magnesium. But to begin with, for the first few days, a couple of weeks maybe, they may need to take way more than they think. And the results are incredible. You know, magnesium, if you haven't tried good quality magnesium, and you know, I'm biased, you should buy it from my website, obviously. But it's amazing, absolutely amazing. I don't think I could live without it. I mean, you don't need to put your hands up, but how many of you ever get twitches around the eyes? Yeah, so, I mean, most people have had or have these magnesium deficiency symptoms. Hiccups is another one. Spasms. I've had women who've had 10 years, whatever, of menstrual cramps that for 5 days a week or some month, they're out of it. You know, their partners hate them. It's all ghastly. 1 day later, with enough magnesium, that's the end of a lifetime's worth of spasms, cramps. You know, it's incredible. Just incredible.
Could I ask, what's the difference between magnesium and chelated magnesium?
Okay. Yes. So, chelated means it's been mixed with an amino acid, which is absolutely fine. You know, there are many, many forms of magnesium, 50 plus different forms. There's magnesium citrate, which is a very common one, but that gives people, that's good for constipation. But if you take a lot of citrate, you'll maybe get to the diarrhea stage before you get to the magnesium benefits. The one I like is magnesium bisglycinate. Bisglycinate. But there are many, many really good ones. You know, I've got 3 types of magnesium on my website. One which is called threonate, which is good for the brain, but they all are. And then a magnesium blend, which I put 4 magnesiums together because each one's got a little benefit here or there. But if you only had one, bisglycinate would be good. But there are loads of great magnesiums. Just avoid oxide. Yeah.
Question about vitamin C. I was told that, obviously, my hobby told this, that vitamin C, too much vitamin C hardens your arteries. Obviously, that's not too much vitamin C. The other thing about vitamin C, is it beneficial to take that with milk? Does it help? Because I'm a milk baby. I used to drink 4 to 6 pints of milk a day when I was in my 20s. It's ridiculous to most people, but I just drank milk all the time.
Right, okay.
Now milk's terrible for me. I don't like it anymore. It's because it's not the same milk.
Right, okay. So with vitamin C, I don't know about taking it with milk. I've not come across that, so I can't answer that one. The thing is, you need to know how much you can take. Some people can take like 1/4 teaspoonful of pure powder, and that's all they can do. Any more than that, and they get loose bowels. Some people can take 1/2 teaspoonful. You have to work out how much you can take, and then try taking it over a day. You know, one of the videos I recommend to everybody is to watch a video called Reverse Pneumonia in 3 hours. Reverse Pneumonia in 3 hours. And this is from a guy called Dr. Andrew Saul. And he took 2 grams, which is just a little, let's say 1/3 of a teaspoonful every 6 minutes. All right, 1/3 of a gram every 6 minutes. Bacteria, you know, in his case, the pneumonia ended in 3 hours. So if you think about it, bacteria bacteria reproduce really fast. Let's say every 2 hours, maybe. So if you hit the bacteria with an antibacterial like vitamin C every 6 minutes, it's like a race. You've won the race. You've outrun the bacteria cycle.
Was that on your website?
It's on the Secret Health Club website, yes. There are several vitamin C videos, basically because my father, who's now 96, he kept on getting sepsis, and he wouldn't believe me when I said vitamin C is what you need. So I interviewed several medical doctors about sepsis until I finally sent him enough videos that he understood. Sorry, you wanted to ask a question?
Yeah, I wanted to ask about your Tesla machine.
Yeah.
You say it relieves pain. Does it relieve pain by deadening the nerves in the area, or by regrowth of tissue, or how does it?
Yes, more the latter. So we run on electrons and photons, right? Photons in the sense of light, electrons. When we take vitamin C or any antioxidant, we're creating electrons in the body, and our cells run on electrons. Each time we exercise, we're creating electrons. You know about the earthing thing, barefoot on the planet. That's getting electrons right from the planet, because the planet's electrically charged. And so these machines pump out, let's say, 1,000 times more electrons than you get any other way. So the fastest result I've ever had was 10 seconds. I didn't even have time to say, can you feel it yet? But really often you can get a result with pain in three minutes-ish. And not every time, but most times.
With magnesium,
Yeah.
say for example, you're on 12 tablets, and you got to a point where you were steady. How would you sort of like use it? How do we lose magnesium?
Right. Magnesium, people sweat it out. You know all these sports people who are dying of heart attacks at the end of a match? Now, why would anybody die of a heart attack at the end of the match? Let's say pre-jab stuff. If, because people always used to die at the end of races and stuff. If you sweat out all the magnesium, your heart can't beat. Your heart seizes up. What creates a heartbeat is calcium is like the contraction element. Magnesium allows relaxation. Magnesium is all about relaxation. So you see somebody who's dead in the desert, we assume that, they died from lack of water, died of dehydration. No, they didn't. They died because they sweated out all the magnesium and they had a heart attack.
Ask about the magnesium again. What's the menstrual cramps? You were talking about the different types.
Any of them will work, just not oxide.
Citrate would be okay for that.
Citrate would be all right. I mean, personally, I like the one on my website. If you've got citrate, try it. Yeah, with vitamin C and magnesium, you just have to spread the doses out. Take too much at once, you'll end up in the bathroom. Yeah.
Any advice for kidney stones?
Yes. There's a herb called Chancre-Piedra, which stands for stone breaker, Chancre-Piedra, and that's great for stones. There are a few other stone issues though. Eating too many oxalate-rich foods, spinach, chard, too much of that can build up stones. Not enough magnesium can build up stones, because there are different types of stones, but if it's calcium-based, magnesium dissolves calcium. So anybody who's got calcifications, calcified arteries, calcified pineal gland, calcified anything, joints, magnesium is probably the answer.
Barley water is high in, barley water is rich in magnesium, is it as well? Is that a natural source?
Do you know, I know that barley water is good for you, but I don't know the answer.
It's really rich in magnesium.
It could be. Whether it's enough. The problem is that there's no minerals basically left in the soil anymore. Modern agriculture has stripped it out.